Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be answering your questions about Buspirone, as there have been several comments that have come in about this medication. And so we're going to talk about Buspirone and the 5 things that you need to know about Buspirone. Starting with number 1, what is Buspirone? Well, Buspirone, also known as Buspar, is an anxiolytic medication, and it was first synthesized in 1968 and patented in 1975. Then it was approved for medical use in the United States in 1986. And Buspirone is a 5-HT1A partial agonist. So it's a serotonin partial agonist. And if you saw my video on Abilify, then you have an idea of what a partial agonist does. It'll increase that neurotransmitters in an area where it needs to be increased and decrease it in areas where it's not needed. So increasing that serotonergic activity in the amygdala and fear center of the brain is primarily how Buspirone works. It also decreases serotonin in areas where serotonin is overactivated and has a downstream effect or a trickle effect, let's say, on dopamine. So it can affect the transmission and release of dopamine as well, but to a lesser extent. Which takes us to number 2. What is Buspirone used for? Well, Buspirone is actually used for the treatment of generalized anxiety disorder. However, when it was first being developed, it was being developed as an antipsychotic, and then they found and realized that it actually didn't have any action on psychosis, but actually really helped with anxiety. And so that's where it came in on the market in the United States with that FDA approval for treating generalized anxiety disorder. Funny thing though is it's not first-line treatment, it's actually a second-line treatment medication. First-line treatment for generalized anxiety disorder are the SSRIs and SNRIs. And second-line treatment would be a medication like Buspirone or those nasty benzodiazepines, which you heard about in this video. And if you haven't, check it out. And so though it is a second-line agent, it will be used when patients can't tolerate the SSRIs, SNRIs, or benzodiazepines because it's typically very well tolerated. Now, there are other off-label uses for Buspirone, such as other anxiety disorders, mixed depression with anxiety, and it can be used adjunctively with antidepressants to help with treatment-resistant depression. It can also be used to help treat sexual dysfunction when paired with an SSRI or SNRI antidepressant. You see, Buspirone is a second-line treatment for anxiety where SSRIs and SNRIs are first-line treatment. However, they come with many side effects, and one of them is sexual dysfunction that about up to 50% of patients will experience. However, when you add Buspirone, that partial agonist action of that medication can actually decrease that overactivation of serotonin that's responsible for our sex drive. You see, serotonin is an inhibitory modulator of our sex drive, and when we have too much serotonin in that area of the brain, that's where the sexual dysfunction comes in. But Buspirone can actually go in there and help turn that down a little bit. Also, with that trickle-down effect of dopamine, which is the excitatory neuromodulator of our sex drive, it can also help boost that effect and help reverse the effects of sexual dysfunction caused by the SSRIs or SNRIs. And so number 3, the third thing you need to know about Buspirone is how long does it take for it to work? Well, that's the thing about Buspirone. It doesn't have an immediate action on the body when you first take it. However, within a week or 2, you should start to see results of the decreased anxiety because it works by an accumulative effect over time. And after about 2 to 4 weeks is where most people start to see the difference. Now, if you're on a therapeutic dose, which is anywhere from 20 to 30 milligrams a day, and that's in divided doses, so either twice a day or 3 times a day, and you're still not experiencing results after 6 to 8 weeks, then you may want to consider either increasing the dose to a max dose of 60 milligrams total for the day, or switching to another medication. Which takes us to number 4. Is Buspirone addicting? So no, it doesn't cause dependency and is often preferred over those benzodiazepines and is just as effective as the benzodiazepines in the treatment of generalized anxiety disorder. However, the onset of action is not going to be as immediate or rapid, as there is a 1 to 2 week period before you start to see the effects. And another advantage of Buspirone is that it doesn't cause any type of abstinence syndrome or withdrawal syndrome, so there's no need to taper off. However, you should always discuss that with your provider if you want to stop any medication. So number 5, the fifth and final thing that you need to know about Buspirone is, what are those side effects and those darn drug interactions? Well, as you know, all medications come with side effects, okay? And Buspirone is no different. However, Buspirone tends to be tolerated very well over the SSRIs or SNRIs. So typically your body will adjust if you start having any of these side effects within a week, and then the side effects will diminish or go away completely. So that's why if you just started taking the medication and you start experiencing some of these side effects, you should continue taking it and give it at least a week before giving up on the medication, because there's a good chance that it could start working for you. And so the main side effects that you're going to experience are going to be dizziness, sedation, nausea, and headaches. Less common side effects would be like nervousness, restlessness, excitement, and very, very rarely akathisia, which I did discuss in that video on Abilify. Now, when we're talking about drug interactions, the main thing you need to know is that Buspirone is metabolized by the CYP3A4 system. So any inhibitors or inducers of that substrate are going to require dosing adjustments for Buspirone. So with the inhibitors, it's going to inhibit the metabolism of the medication, so it's going to slow it down, making you have higher levels of Buspirone in your system, meaning you would require lower dosages and maybe even need less dosages throughout the day. Now, inducers induce the metabolism, so the Buspirone is being metabolized more rapidly in your body, meaning that you would require higher dosing adjustments and perhaps more dosing throughout the day. But of course, this all has to be discussed with your provider. And the list of inducers and inhibitors here are just the ones that I come across frequently, but there are many other medications that are inducers and inhibitors of that substrate. So always make sure that you are telling your provider which medications that you're on. Other interactions to consider are the antidepressants classified as the MAOIs. They stay in the system typically for about 14 days, so you want to avoid the use of an MAOI 14 days before or after being on Buspirone. And that will help to avoid serotonin syndrome, which is something you also have to be watching out for when you're taking Buspirone in conjunction with another antidepressant. Now, I cover serotonin syndrome in this video where I go over all the rare and dangerous side effects of antidepressants. However, if you'd like me to make a separate video on serotonin syndrome, just let me know, drop that in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to make a video for you. So I thank you for watching. I wish you well on your mental health care journey, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week.